finally made it. This is going to be a big...
so.
Oh, my. You guys don't understand how excited I am right now because, first of all, I have my beautiful wife to my right. You know, I got my thoroughest girl with me. Y'all know what it is. But the next reason that I'm excited is because we got some special guests in the building.
Yeah.
So these people have great influence across all platforms. They have been married for 2 years. Oh, and I was blessed to be able to be a part of that wedding. I feel like I should have been the best man, but I'm gonna talk to him about that later. They have definitely been. It's very interesting because they've only been married for 2 years, but in a sense they've kind of been an example to us because I love how they are involved in their church, how they're leaders amongst their community, and I can't wait to get into this conversation because I know that we're gonna have some deep intellectual conversation because if y'all have seen their podcast, they go in.
And not just their podcasts. They got other things going on too. Like they're 500,000 plus, 600,000 plus subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, snap flex.
They've got more than just an influence in their community, but also to the world. And we have the privilege to call them family.
Yes, if y'all know, I got my sister and my brother in the building. Y'all make some noise for Jonathan and Jessica Wallace.
I feel welcome. This is nice.
What's good, man? What's going on with y'all?
It's so funny when you're talking about it. Jonathan was still doing the pastor thing. He's like,
He can't help it. It's in his blood,
I know.
man.
I'm like, I don't think
It's
the
in
camera's on us yet, but he's like,
You just gotta nod
like
your head.
smiling. I'm like,
It's the humble nod.
The humble nod, yeah.
hey guys, we're in the building.
Yes,
You thought
yes,
you were gonna
yes.
get rid of us on a new podcast? I don't think so. We're here.
No, sir. Yo,
Can't get rid of us.
They're sitting on our couch. We got them in. You guys see the setting is a little different than what we normally do because
Yes.
we had to make some room.
Yes.
I had to make sure that my family was comfortable.
Thank you.
Because we about to get deep, man. We about to get into some things that that maybe some people have never heard, or maybe they've heard it before. Because y'all been spitting out some truth, and y'all been telling y'all testimony on your podcast, which has been like very inspiring and
you.
motivational. Y'all actually, as I said, they have been a motivation to me and inspired us to take that next step of faith. And that's kind of one of the reasons that we decided to jump onto the scene. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. I'm gonna give y'all flowers.
Thank you.
And we gonna get into it. So how y'all feeling?
I feel great.
Feeling good.
This whatever is in here, it's really keeping me alive right now. So this is like podcast after dark vibes. What is it?
Yes,
it's after 10 p.m.
It's
So
after dark, so
it's
then anything
after
can
dark.
happen.
After dark.
Anything can
How dark are we
happen.
gonna get? How dark are we
It's gonna get real. We're gonna
These
keep
are
it real.
like our prime hours because when the kids go to sleep, this is when we turn up.
Got that right.
It's
so
so
we turning
funny.
out tonight.
We were just talking about like me and Jonathan. Like I come alive at night, and Jonathan is not a night person.
Yeah.
Are you a morning person?
I'm not.
He's a nothing.
I don't know what I am. I don't know when I peak, but it's definitely not after 10.
No.
Nah, not anymore. Maybe when I was like in high school, but now it's 10, 11, I'm gone.
So
Like, I'm
this
tired.
wasn't. I didn't think we were gonna start this way, but so when do you feel like you're the most focused? Like if you have to write a message or prepare for a test, like whatever it may be, when are you the most focused?
I think it's kind of weird. I think it's like mid-afternoon. Well, mid-afternoon into night before like 9 o'clock.
Who is this guy? I don't know.
Very precise.
I've never heard anybody like that's my peak hours.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
well,
like-
because there's this book that I started reading, but I didn't finish, so I can't like flex on it that hard. By Carey Nieuwhof, and he talks about like green zones, yellow zones, and red zones. So it's like your green zone is like when you're peak, like your optimal hours, like everything productive that you need to be doing, you should be doing during these hours. And there's yellow zones, which are like, they're kind of like intermediate. And then there are the red zones where it's like trying to do anything during these times, like it's just not gonna be productive.
Oh, okay. Well,
So-
we're definitely gonna get more into that because
We will, because we just got into our biggest argument recently over something like that. So we'll get
Let's
into
hear
that
more.
later.
Well, you know what? While
Did
we're
we-
here,
did we?
while we're here,
Yes. When I was talking to you, I was like, why am I talking to him like this? Like, I was so upset on our vacation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
was this
Yeah.
during one of
It was
your
during-
your red zones?
It was a red
Yes.
zone.
I was in a green zone. He was in a red zone. But he was trying to kind of green it up. I'm like, I'm
I
not.
was trying to be green for her.
You green.
While we were in.
But he was really giving me red.
Because I was upset, but we were in the middle of like a disagreement. So I was trying to like green it up so we can finish the disagreement so we can go to sleep.
Wow.
He
But it
wasn't
wasn't
trying
working.
to sleep. Are we getting into this?
I mean, it sounds like this is where y'all want to go. It just hit you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just hit you.
the full picture here.
I'll tell the full story. Sorry, we can get into what you were going to say, but we're going to start off with some negativity. No, I'm just kidding. We're on vacation. We're playing a game. I'm about to really ratchet up your podcast. We're playing a game called King's Cup.
Let's go.
my
We're
God,
here.
throwback.
We're here.
A lot of my friends are much younger than I am. They're like 23, 24, 25, and I'm like, anyways, I was the oldest person in the Airbnb. Anyways, I'm playing with my girls. We're having a good time. We're giggling. We're up. It was like around 2:30 in the morning. LA time.
LA, it's very important. We live on the East Coast, so it's like 5:30 a.m.
And this is like
Nasty
day 3. We haven't fully adjusted yet, but I'm having fun with my girls. We're laughing. We're having a good time. And Jonathan was kind of stinking up the vibes a little bit because he's like, man, I'm going to bed. I'm like, okay, go, please. They were killing the vibes. So then he goes to the room. You can jump in if I'm off, but I think my story's right. He goes to the room. And he's in there for a little bit, and I'm like, oh, thank God, the air's fresh again. I'm like, let's turn up, let's have some fun. And then all of a sudden, he's like, Jessica, Wallace is to the bed. I'm like, Wallace is good night.
No, but okay,
That's crazy.
I said it partially jokingly. One, that's a word. But what also?
I was like,
But what also happened in that time, I was fine just going to bed. But earlier in that day,
I was talking that talk.
she was talking that talk. It's like, oh, when we get
Wait
to
till
bed,
later.
wait till later. And like my dreams and hopes for that were like diminishing by the time we got to like 1
That's
a.m.
why you was cranky.
No, what,
He was like, yo, we should have been done with this about 3 hours ago.
But she has a tendency to sometimes talk the talk and not
Walk the walk.
walk the walk.
I was
So-
ready to walk, but just not at that time.
It
I'm
sounded
like,
like she was getting prepared to walk.
I'm like, oh, I'm lit. Like, it's going to be a good walk.
Was it going to be at 3:30?
I wanted you to stop playing King's Cup so you could put his king in your cup.
Wow, let's go.
All right.
Whoa, we're starting with a bang, people.
Yeah. So no, but I was fine just going to sleep. But what tipped it over was a friend who's not married. We're the only married people in this Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in, he's like, yeah, like, why are you going to sleep? Like, we're celebrating my birthday. Like, Jess is talking all that. Jess told me that she was told us that she was talking all that talk.
See, I told
and like she's ready for you or whatever. I'm like, if she's ready for me, then let's go. Right. So then that's what I said. All right, Wallace's, we out. Like, but I was kind of joking. Like, I was kind of joking, kind of serious. But you know, she didn't like that.
I was having so much fun.
It didn't go over well. So when I realized that she was serious and she was like, why'd you pull me out? I was like, oh no, like it's all right. You can go back. I didn't realize it was that deep. But then she was already upset.
Yeah, at
She's
that
like,
point, the
I'm
vibe
not-
was killed.
The vibe was
Vibe was
killed.
killed.
She was like, I'm not leaving the room. I'm like, no, it's okay. Just go back. And then she's like, no, I'm not going. You want to go to bed? This is what you want. We don't go to sleep. I'm like, that's not what I want.
It's because
You
before
knew you wasn't getting it no
I
more.
know, that was bad.
Now I'm like with bad vibes and I can't sleep and I get nothing. And it was
Yeah.
green zones, yellow zones, red zones.
Yeah, I was
Got
up,
you,
he was
got you.
down, and at that point, I was also in my head. I'm like, why are you so mad? Because I was like, this is what you want? You hear my friends out there laughing, and I'm here with you? I'm like, but in my head, I'm like, my head, I'm like, why am I talking the way I'm talking to him right now? But I was like, I already started, so I guess I have to keep being mad. So I gotta finish strong.
She was so hyped up.
I was hyped up.
Oh, man.
Because I'm like hearing my friends laugh out there while I'm like,
And
and I
she
also
could've-
felt
she really
stupid
could've
because
go
I'm
back
like,
out.
he said I could go back out too. But I just felt like when I went back out there, they'd be like, oh, what happened? And I didn't feel like explaining. And so I'm just in the bed like, everyone's like after like laughing. And I'm like,
Wow. So
but I
how
also
do you-
want him
how-
to hear it. I'm like, this is what you did. Good.
How do you guys? This is great. I'm glad we started off this way. Once again, guys, these are the Wallaces.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
And it sounds like we're about to get into it. I don't know. This might be a
Yeah.
therapy session, but we'll
But that
see.
was really
We'll see where it goes.
interesting. I feel like maybe to the newlyweds, maybe you take the 5 love languages quiz and figure out your zones. So you
Yeah,
can,
we need a zone
know
quiz.
each other.
That's crazy. So how do you? So when you guys get into this conflicts like that, what's usually the way that? How do you guys resolve those type of issues?
Like clearly you went to bed mad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we usually, if we're getting in a disagreement, don't usually get that hot towards each other.
Yeah.
Where we'll be having a disagreement, but it usually doesn't. We usually don't raise our voices at all. But that time, we did start to raise our voices. So it was like, let's just shut it down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like nothing productive is happening with this conversation right now. So we just call it. A lot of times I'll be ready to just finish like the conversation, just like have the discussion, apologize, all that good stuff. And then, and like just to be done with it. But Jess is, she runs a little hotter than I do.
Yeah.
So she needs more time to assess how she's feeling so she doesn't say something that she doesn't mean.
Yeah.
You can take that.
Yeah,
from
we've
there.
talked about this a little bit before, but like before, I would just say whatever is on my mind. I'd say things like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and hurt you because that's how upset I am right now." But now that I'm like, I know I can't take my words back, and Jonathan, he's not a toxic. He doesn't thrive off of arguments or me being toxic or anything like that I'm used to in my previous relationships years ago. So now I still have kind of that same attitude, but I know that if I just zip my lips for a second, be slow to speak, that I can have a more productive conversation. But sometimes that can come out in me being slower to, wrap things up because I need a little bit longer before I say something that I don't mean. So it takes me a little bit longer, but I think I handle it much better than I used to. But Jonathan usually is the one to be like, all right, like, what would like, let's talk about this. And I'll just be like, okay, I'm ready to listen.
It's a lot of dying to self.
So much.
That's good.
I think
So
that's the
much.
most important. I think that's the most important thing that a lot of couples don't get. It's the feeling like they don't deserve my forgiveness or they don't deserve me to be the one to come forward and make peace. So like peace doesn't get made and things get swept under the rug. But it really feels, and we talked about this on our pod, but like it feels like dying a little bit. Like when you have to like kill that pride, because it's just like it's like they don't deserve it, But it's like that literal like picking up your cross every day.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
We're such Harveys. We're like, we want to make sure that they feel it. Sometimes I get like, we'll get into an argument, not even an argument, but she may do something that she knows that I don't like that she does. And I'm just like, I'm just going to be salty for a little bit until she feels it. Like,
Yeah.
and then she'll like ask me like, is everything okay? I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, it is, but I want you to know that it's not. But
want you to
I'm
feel
like,
bad.
I tell her, I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
I like it.
That's all
I'm
good.
That's terrible.
gotta write that one
That's
down.
not good.
I know, but it's not. It's not.
I'm
not.
all right. I'll be fine.
And okay, so back to what you said. You said typically before you guys go to sleep, you like to try to hash it out.
Yeah.
Is that coming from a genuine place? And do you feel like it's genuine when he tries to do it, or are you just doing it just because you're like, I just don't want to go to sleep angry?
I feel like it's genuine because Jonathan does not like animosity or turmoil or anything like that. He likes to have the air cleared. And I have to kind of be on board with that because I'm fine with a little bit of animosity. I'm fine with a little bit of tension.
Are you here for the smoke?
I'm about that
She's
smoke.
here for the smoke.
We're very different and we grew up differently because I hate to do this, but the way I seen our parents grow up, mom's was about that smoke for some time now. She'd go a little while, and obviously it's not healthy, but that's just what I grew up seeing. And I'm like, I can handle a day or two of smoke, but Jonathan, no, he's not letting too much time go by without fixing it. And I have been learning to like adapt. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm ready to be mad at you for a little bit longer. Like I don't want to talk, but Jonathan's like, oh no, we're gonna talk actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know about like Enneagrams or whatever, but I'm like an Enneagram type 9, and like that doesn't mean like
Some people think it's witchcraft.
yeah, okay, whatever. But what I think what that says about me, my general personality type, is that like I hate conflict. Like I really don't like being in conflict. But when I was younger, what that would mean that I would do is like just avoid it altogether. Like if my brother, like he runs a little, especially at the time, he runs a little harder than I do too. So like he would be complaining about not getting something. I'd be like, here, just have it. And like my parents would be like, you need to stand up for yourself. And I'm like, nah, like it's all right. He has it. And like I would just make peace and just like give the people what they want, so that like we could just like breeze on by. But I think maturing what that's done is because I thrive in peaceful situations. If there is any strife or animosity, I will do my best to make real peace, so that we can be living in peace. So even though I have to go through the conflict, the thing I do not like at all, it's the way to be where I really want to be. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to that point?
Not till I was an adult, and I went through some therapy. I mean, not therapy for that, but I think God helped mature me in that way. But most of my life, if something was wrong with somebody, just didn't talk to them. Just didn't talk to that person. You know, waited for them to bring up whatever it was. I just hated being in like non-peaceful situations. So like even to the point where my brother and my mom would get in arguments a lot because him not doing his homework or whatever, and I would just leave, like walk away. Anytime like people were arguing in the house, which like it wasn't super often, but I would just walk away. Like just did not want to be a part of it. But I don't know. I feel like maturing was just realizing that we need to be like, I need to be a peacemaker, you know, and rather than just making fake peace by like not surrounding myself with conflict. Yeah.
I think that's so cute because God really did put you guys together because you guys pull out the things that he wants to pull out of you through your marriage. And I feel like you didn't really encounter that until you got into the thickness of your marriage.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys are already seeing that because I think that took us several years to figure out, you know, like what God's refining between us in our marriage. So I think that was actually my first question I wanted to ask you because you guys are newbies, marriage, but like I know that you've been, you know, walking with Jesus for a long time. So I feel like you can point these things out early, but what are some things that God's refining in each of you through marriage? Or is it just that specifically? Or are there other things?
Oh, definitely not. I have had to work a lot on my submission, and like being respectful to my husband because there are a lot of factors which sometimes make me feel like I want to puff up my chest. Like obviously I'm older and I hate, it is what it is. Like I'm more financial, like how do we say this nicely?
You make more money.
Okay. The breadwinner.
Say with your chest.
She makes more money.
You want to
He's
puff
very
up your chest?
confident.
Puff it up.
I
Say
know.
it.
He's very,
That doesn't hurt my feelings.
he's very confident, but sometimes I'm like trying to tiptoe for some men who are watching who are sensitive. My husband's not, but I make more money and like I'm older. And I'm like, listen to me, dog. But like I have had to. I'm in a season of zip my lips and I'm a season of hush. Like just let him do what he's doing. He's handling it well. Yeah, I may have my own thoughts and sometimes I will express them. But at the end of the day, I'm like, let me submit to his leadership because that's what I vowed to do in the first place. But that is a part of my dying to self. Like just like, shh. And I'm like, I actually have been in relationships where I've always been like the boss. Like I put my foot down. We're doing what I want. Like I was the bossy. And I feel like I tried that with Jonathan and he was like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, we're not. what do you mean? Even though Jonathan, he's very like a kind soul and he's like soft and nice and like lovely, but like he lets me know and not in a non-aggressive way that he is the leader. He is going to listen to me as well, but he just kind of lets me know in a nice way. Like, hey, shut up. No.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
That's how I see it from my point of view.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, because there was something that you guys said, because I want to rewind a little bit here, because you spoke about, and I've seen it firsthand, how our parents' relationship has impacted the way you are essentially in your marriage with Jonathan. Yeah. So I guess this is a question for both of you guys. How do you guys feel like the dynamic of seeing, your parents and how they were in their marriage impact how you guys are in your marriage today?
It's so different. Our parents are so
You
different.
start.
Yeah.
Be careful what you say about my mom and dad. No, honestly. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead.
I love and respect my parents so much, but I would just
Don't be scared.
You said you want a thug. Don't be scared.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
I have such a great relationship with both of them, but I would definitely do things differently. I seen mom's gonna get so mad, bro.
Yeah, she's getting a little mad.
She's very private. Mom is so private. Like she's so private, which is also something where I think I didn't want to be that way because like there would be things that are happening and I'm like, why don't you talk to your friends about this? Like, no, we don't want. Like she's very private. So I'm gonna still have to tiptoe a little bit because I want to respect mom and dad. But I seen the way that mom back then would handle arguments, and now dad he's got tired of being the nice guy, and that's the way he handles arguments now. I'm like, I can't do it the way that you guys did it. But yet and still, I still have that upbringing. That's what I saw. And that's why I'm like, I'm about a little bit of smoke. And mom was also, in the beginning, she was also the breadwinner, and mom is very dominant. She's a very dominant person. She's very, dominant. And I got a lot of that from her. So I can see a lot of that coming out of me a lot. But I also can see how it went along in their relationship with my parents, who are still together for about, this year makes 40 years.
Praise
Next
God.
month makes 40 years of them being married. But I've seen a lot of ups and downs in the 32 years that I've seen. And I'm like, I can't do that to my husband. But also, I don't know how I'm going to be 40 years in. Like, I know you can get tired. That's me trying to give them excuses. I don't really know. But I don't know how they were in year 2 and how they handled their arguments. But I know where they are now. And I seen some things 30 years ago that I'm like, I can't hold grudges that long. But
Yeah, I think that's good because there's good and then there's bad. And I feel like we just have to be able to discern what we want to take away from what we've seen in our parents' relationship. And we're like, hey, like there's a lot of good that came from that.
Yeah.
Because my dad is such a loving person. I know he's so like, his love language is definitely physical touch. And I remember always seeing him like hold hands, like do a lot of those things
Dance
early in the
with
marriage,
mom,
like dancing.
yeah.
He's always ready, you know? And mom's love language is not physical touch.
No.
But I loved how much he pours his love out onto mom. And I was like, ooh, I want to take that away
Yeah,
from him.
yeah.
And then it's like something that I know that I brought into our marriage was and you just spoke about it, is letting
Keeping the
letting arguments go on for longer than it needs to go instead of hashing it out in that very moment in time. We just
Yeah.
let it. I'm like, time will heal all, but
Right.
time doesn't
It
necessarily
doesn't.
heal everything.
I feel like it makes it worse sometimes.
Yeah.
Like too
does.
long.
Faking the peace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, she'll get over it. You know, but it's like now it's just like you're sweeping it under the rug, and it's like eventually
trip over that.
Eventually, you're gonna trip over that.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like the pros and the cons when it comes to that. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, in terms of my parents, it was very different in that in terms of argument styles, especially, they were really, really good. Like when they disagreed, it was almost never like a blow up and almost never drawn out. It was one of those things where my dad, who can be a little passive aggressive,
it's my kind of guy.
a little passive.
toxic.
Just do a little bit. Lays it on a little thick sometimes. But like just seeing the way my mom would interact with him, in terms of like she might walk away for a second, but when she comes back, she always cuts through the passive aggressive in order to have like a meaningful conversation. Like anytime, like I'm trying to think, anytime they argue, it wasn't long and drawn out. Like they would always get to where they need to get to in order to come to a place of peace. And one of the things that I got from them was to never argue to hurt the other person. Like never intentionally either say something you don't mean or never say something you don't mean. I think that was like the single biggest thing that I got. In that I would never like say anything to Jess just to get a rise out of her or just to hurt her or just to harm her, because I never saw that done in my home. I feel like that was a big testimony of theirs, that they didn't leave that example for me to follow in.
Yeah, I
Shout out
think
to
that,
them.
Healthy.
yeah, that's really good. One thing that I learned recently, which we actually, no, it's not recent, but when we were going through marriage counseling, we learned to fight fair, always to fight fair. That was
Fight
a big
for our
takeaway.
marriage.
Yeah, and if you're not fighting for your marriage, then you're fighting against it.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes that I've always kind of held on to is either you're speaking to the king or the fool. And whichever one you're speaking to, that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's really big.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. So I know that you guys have like a lot on your podcast that you've already talked about, but some people might be introduced to you for the first time on our pod. So why don't you talk about a little bit of what you guys do for a living? Because we didn't really get into
I know y'all came in hot, like, and
Sorry.
I love the energy. I'm like, yo, we can roll with it.
Intro.
That's
I know.
People are like, who are these people? Like, they're
That's Jess.
aggressive. No,
Straight no chaser.
let's go
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
I'm
who
a
are
hot
you guys?
girl.
Who's sitting across on the other couch? Like, who are we
All
talking
right.
to?
So my name's Jess. I am Matthew's little sister. That's actually what they used to call me in fourth grade, the famous Matthew Harvey's little sister.
But you know what's crazy? I went to a conference this past week or this 2 weekends ago, and they were like, oh, that's Jessica's brother.
You know,
I'm like,
how the tables have turned.
Tables have turned.
I love that for me. I love this season of life.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So my name's Jess. I'm 32. I do. What do?
You're an influencer?
I'm a content creator, influencer. I started off doing hair videos. Oh gosh, I don't even know how long ago, like 8 years ago. And then I moved into doing lifestyle vlogs, and now we have a podcast together. We've been married for 2 years, and the rest is on you, babes.
My name is Jonathan. I'm a physical therapist. I'm 27. And I do a podcast with my lovely wife. And that's it.
Let's get to holding hands. They've been holding hands over there and whatnot. And I'm like, dang, like, let's look like we like each other.
Pastor's son as well.
Oh, and a PK as well.
Yeah, PK.
PK to PK.
Yeah.
Is that a good combo?
No, well, it wasn't at first.
It was horrible. It was really, it's not good. Not
really
good.
bad at first, but really good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different dynamic. So, do you guys ever see yourself like jumping into ministry, like working in ministry?
Me, no. I could, but you know what? It's funny. I always grew up thinking like I'm gonna be a preacher's wife one day. I'm like, I just knew it. Like I'm gonna be a pastor's wife, and either
maybe one day.
I'm like, is that gonna get fulfilled through you or somebody else? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow.
I love you so much.
Are you guys still going to be married by the end of this podcast?
I know.
Right?
By the time this comes out.
This is normal. This is normal. But
I'm kidding. I love you so much.
I know,
promise, guys.
I know.
I love him.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe one day. If God calls me into that season, yes. But now I'm just content. I feel like doing the podcast, I'm getting to use what God's put inside of me, which makes me feel good.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Jonathan's got the oil all over him. Like he really has. He's oily. I'm trying to tell you, like Jonathan.
Explain what that means. Explain what that means to people that like.
He got the oil.
Because I sometimes don't even 100%
If you don't know, you don't know.
Like sometimes I don't know what you're saying.
Like, I feel like that's a Harvey thing. Like I know Indy doesn't know what Levon's saying half the time.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, like when someone preaches and they're hitting it and they come off, I'm like, hey, you had that oil on you. Or like when our friend Jazz sings, she's a worship leader, she's singing, I'm like, hey, you was oiled up today. Like that holy anointing oil,
right.
you oiled down, baby.
I knew what you meant, but like I feel like the world didn't know what you meant.
I feel like context clues.
Context.
Context clues. My baby got that oil. Yeah.
That's really good. So
I appreciate it.
I guess a little bit of encouragement or words just to uplift you guys, because how you talked about your jumping into social media, starting with the hair. And I remember you speaking to Dana and I, and you guys were like, man, you guys need to start, like, people would love your family. They want to see mixed families. Like, you guys need to get on there and do it. And we're kind of like, nah. So that was like one of the things that inspired me. So thank you for paving the way.
Yeah, I get no percentage off of it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're welcome to Madrid management.
That's true. That
She's a part of our management team. She's on the team.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan, just seeing how, like, at such a young age, you were at like the forefront. Like you were always like, because we go to a Camp Horizon. It's like our church camp where our churches come together. And like Jonathan is, what, you're like 5 years, 6 years young? I don't know. How much younger are you than me? How old are you?
7 years younger than you.
7 years younger than me. And he's doing stuff that I'm kind of like still nervous about doing. I'm like, maybe one day. You know?
What are you talking about?
I'm like, I don't want to lead a cabin of boys. I'm like, yeah, maybe one day. But
Jonathan was doing that at 15.
You know
I still
what
think you're the
I'm
youngest
16.
counselor. Oh, 16. I think you're the youngest counselor still.
Being a counselor, preaching at the churches, doing small groups, like you just like stepped into that season and you just like grabbed it by the horns and ran with it. So like, I just wanted to uplift you with that, because that's inspired me too, for sure.
Very cute.
So I want to kind of rewind a little bit, because I heard you guys mention.
You love rewinding.
I have so many.
Because we started off crazy.
Listen, you guys started hot.
Sorry.
And there was a lot of things that like, there was a lot of things going off in my head. I'm like, oh, I got to get back to that. I'm gonna let you guys go, but I'm gonna get back to that, because you mentioned feeling very authoritative because of the age gap. And you're like, you know what, like I make the money. So talk to me about that a little bit. Like, what's that been like in your guys' marriage? And have there been any conflicts around it? Or do you guys think it's been for the better? Like, has she molded you? Just kind of like, tell me a little bit about that and how
Are
you
you
guys
asking if
played
she
that out.
groomed me?
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
we started.
It's a 5 or 6 year age gap.
5.5.
5.5.
Wow.
Because I turned 30.
rocking
I'm
the
going to turn
cradle.
33 before you turn 28. So
Yeah.
it's like 5.5 for like, yeah.
5 and some change. In our marriage, I don't, at least on my end, it hasn't really been a point of struggle at all. What I said, we had like a live the other day, is that I feel like I'm aged up to where she's at.
Grandma.
So no.
He's saying you haven't had any growth, so he's like,
I understand. Yeah, that's what it's giving. Like
No, it's like I feel like I'm 30. I feel like I'm 32. So
what does that feel like exactly?
it feels like how I live. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like anything.
Going to sleep at 9. Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry.
But just like I have a friend that's my age and he's dating someone that's 4 years younger. So like 28 and like 24, right? So we were talking to them and they were talking about, yeah, when we get married, we want to wait like 5 or so years before having kids. And in my head, I'm like, 5 years? That's so long. But then in 5 years, I'll be 32, which is still fair. It's still pretty young, you know. But my timeline kind of feels like Jess's timeline. So that's kind of where I feel as far as marriage, where we're at. But back when we started dating, I was like, when we started unofficially dating, when we were in a situationship, I was like 20.
situationship.
21.
Don't worry, we'll get back to that.
21?
Nah, 20. 20. Almost 21.
2021. And up at that point, it was more of a bigger deal just because we were in different stages of life. Like I was still in undergrad. I mean, you were in undergrad
Me
too.
too, technically.
But you were making.
She's still an undergrad.
Yeah, but
I barely just made it.
but you were making your own. You were making your own money and stuff. And I didn't start making my own money for real until we got married. So that was a big thing when we were dating. Like I wasn't able to take her out on dates for real.
Yeah.
You know, like and a lot of times she would have to pay for stuff which I know she wasn't
Thrilled about.
because only when Jess was popping off, like while I was in grad school. So like I was really not making money. Like I couldn't even have had a part-time job. So she was making money. So it's any income that I had, it felt like it was going to go to dates or go to Jess in some way. But then it just I felt like I wasn't giving enough. At the time, 100%.
Yeah.
I
What was
feel
the
that.
question?
I think, well, just to play on that, I feel like we kind of had the same dynamic where I was making money and you weren't. Like, I think you bought a ring and you didn't even have a job. I think you were there.
Yeah.
But talking to like single, sorry to put that out there, but talking to
Catching
like
strays over here. Like,
talking
okay.
to like other singles out there, I hear a lot of them talking about how, oh, he doesn't have like a nice car, or oh, he doesn't have a good enough job, or they kind of look at the materialistic thing of marriage and whatnot. And that was just not a factor for us because we basically got married on pennies.
Yeah.
So like when it comes to that money factor, was that like a big issue in your marriage or in your courting days? Like, were you worried about that? The fact that you were making money and he wasn't, so you're paying for all this stuff. Like, what were you feeling in that time?
Yeah. So honestly, it didn't really bother me that much. I always think that like God orchestrated it nice because of the fact that we were friends for a very long time before anything happened. I didn't look at him as in like, basically what I'm trying to say is if I had met Jonathan at when he was 20 and I was 25 and I was making money, I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to give this guy a chance. Because I didn't know him. All I would know is that he doesn't have money. He lives at home and blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, no. But because I already knew the person that he was, I didn't care. I saw way past all of those things. And I saw that he was in school to be a physical therapist. So I'm like, we going to be all right. But I think it's such a important thing that I knew him before I was even interested because I got to see the type of person that he was. And that's something that I had to bank on. Like that was in the bank. That was the money. That was what made him seem rich to me in my eyes when we decided to take things further because of who he was and not what he had.
That's beautiful. That's so nice.
Isn't it cute?
It's so cute.
I love that. I'm like tearing
so
up over
cute.
here.
Rich
Yeah,
in
me
love,
too.
right?
Okay. All right. The investment. I love
Very
that.
nice. And what's also funny with you saying like, oh, something about like girls say like, oh, he don't have no car, he don't have no job, like I can't date him. When I first introduced Jonathan to my YouTube family, I didn't do it until we got engaged. The comments were like, oh, he's using you for your money. And but first of all, I'm like, I'm barely breaking 6 figures. So I'm like, what are you guys talking about? But they're like, he's using you and like and blah, blah, blah. But now they seen Jonathan backwards. They saw that he had no money and then they got to know who he was. And now they are, I don't say obsessed, but they love Jonathan. Now I got the opposite way. I saw him for who he was And then
Now I hate him. No. Now he gets on my nerves.
no, but yeah, now they're like, oh, he's a great guy. I'm like, man, I knew that already. Like, yeah, I'm trying to tell y'all. Y'all was like, oh, he's using you. I'm like, for what?
Yeah, I think the only time the money difference and just like stage of life difference concerned me was right before we were getting married. Like,
I was spending.
Man, oh man, was she spending? So like leading up to the wedding, because I didn't have any income. Like your dad and Jess who was footing the bill for the entire wedding.
Okay, Pops. Shout out to Pops.
Shout out
He
to
put
Pops.
in a cute amount.
No, he put in a good amount. Which that
He was ready
that-
for this day. Good.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
was a
I'm
it was
like,
a
where'd you get
blessing.
this money from, Dad? We've been struggling all this time.
No, it was a big blessing. But during that time, I kept trying to nail Jess down to a budget. Like, I didn't really care what the budget was, just that there needed to be a budget that we didn't just keep swiping over and over. Because I'm thinking, like, we gotta live after this after this wedding. And I was gonna be working, after the wedding because I was graduating right around that time too. But I'm thinking about like life. I'm thinking about saving money, and she's telling me like we got to get these flowers, and I'm like, all right, how much do the flowers cost? Flowers cost crazy amounts of money. I'm like,
crazy.
we have to have a budget. But she was kind of disregarding me in a way where she was kind of like,
They're
shoot.
there.
Yeah, they're there.
They're there.
And that was making me nervous because the idea of her making more money than me never scared me. But the idea of her not respecting me and my input, that is what scared me. It turned out to be like a blip. Like, it was like after we got married, we talked about it, and after we got married, she's done a really good job of making me feel, well, we are equal partners, but making me feel like we're 100% equal partners and we're in this together. That it's not her money. She's like she's never used the term like my money,
Not
or
to your face.
or made me feel less than because I bring in less money than her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, during that wedding phase, this is not right, and don't follow me, but what I was thinking was like, this is the last time I'm gonna be able to do whatever I want with this money. So as soon as I say I do, it's ours. So I'm like, hey, hush on these flowers, babe. I got it. I got it. Don't you worry. Everything's gonna be fine. You just sit there. You look pretty. You get your hair cut. You show up. I'm not suggesting that you women do the same thing, but just a part of me was just like, I know my husband's very into finances and budgeting, and I'm like, I've never had a budget before, and I know I'm going to after I say I do. So I'm like, let me just have this one last thing, y'all, please.
Praise God. Okay.
We had a great wedding. It was beautiful.
So I mean, yeah, the wedding was amazing, and like you said, it's 2 years going on. When's your guys' anniversary?
No, we just passed it.
Just past
May,
two.
so just
Just past 2. Okay, so 2 years, and obviously you guys have grown so much from when you guys first met until now.
Yeah.
And Jonathan dropped a word. He said situationship.
Yeah.
That was the word he used. So let's talk about that.
Let's talk about
that.
that.
What does that mean? What are we
What
talking
does
about here? What was
situationship
that
mean?
season for y'all?
What was our situation?
What was our situation?
Yeah, what was
Yeah.
that?
Do you want to go or I?
That's crazy.
All right, so basically what happened was that I always had a crush. I always had a crush on Jess, but I was too young for her. So we were really good friends for a long time. But after we were able to be together, after I turned 18, I'm like, all right, let's try to make this a thing. And she was like, absolutely not.
I feel like people always miss that part because they're always like, "Oh, you groomed him until he was ready." I'm like, even when he was ready, I still did not want to date this man. I'm like, no,
it was a firm.
You're too young.
Yeah, it was a firm no. And then we were still friends for a while after that. But then she started dating somebody else, and that's when I was like, all right, I gotta go. Like, even to the point where I have my notebook from that I was writing my prayers in. And I prayed for her and that other person.
He did.
Yeah, like I wrote just like, cause the dude's awesome. And I was like, man, God, I just take care of her, take care of them. Like help me move on. There's a lot of praying for God, why? But take care of them.
They're there.
Yeah.
Soon come.
So then I just kind of not forgot about it, but like I put away the idea of us being together. But then after her and the other person broke up, she came to me and she was like, I'm ready to give this a try if you want to. And I'm like,
no.
Oh wow!
what happened?
Two sides of the story. Y'all still
no.
haven't figured this story out yet?
No.
we
bro.
tell the story like
A lot.
a lot, but like we never come down to 100% agreeing. But let me just finish telling like this part of it.
Okay.
And then you can hop in and
Start cooking. Go ahead.
well, if you want to go to the nitty gritties, it was Best Friends Day.
There we are.
And I had posted a bunch of people, and I'm like, you know what? Me and Jess were really close. Let me post a picture of her. So I posted a picture of her, and then she reached out to me, and she was like, "It meant so much." That blah 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 blah.
Because I was like, I didn't know we were still friends. Because after I dated that guy, Jonathan, he just threw me away. And I was like, it hurt
strong.
because
I was like,
Yeah, that's tough.
I had to distance myself.
he did, and rightfully so. But I was selfish. And I was like, but we friends though.
But we friends
I
though.
was like, but you're my friend. You're just gonna go away. But I think that's the right thing to do if you are in love with somebody and they're dating someone else. It's not the best idea to stick around
Right.
like waiting for your chance or whatever.
No,
'cause
I
it's
had
just
to
gonna
go.
hurt you. But I was like, but you're my friend. Like, don't leave. Stick around. But he was like gone, and we didn't talk for like a year.
Almost a year, yeah.
Because even after me and the other guy broke up, I didn't like go like, hey, we're broken up. Like, what are you doing? Like, it took like 6 months for him to even realize like what was going on.
Yeah, like they were broken up. I had no clue.
yeah.
You know, but after that, then we started talking some. But what was tough for me was that I had already given up the idea of me and her together. So I was confused.
Man, was he?
It was
I was confused. I'm like, you've been after me for 100 years, and now I'm trying to give you a little play, and you're like, I don't know. I'm like, you're not serious.
Yeah, and there's a verse is like a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So it's like it was double-minded and unstable in all like in everything that I was trying to do. And I was young, so like I didn't really know what I wanted anymore. And just to any young woman, if a man is approaching you and they don't know what they want, run away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Run away. Get far away.
And not
Because-
even some like, oh, call me when you figure it out. Like,
no,
give him
no,
zero hope. Just
get
be
up,
out.
just go away because
Yeah.
you want a man with a purpose, and I was not a man with a purpose, so I couldn't lead her anywhere because I didn't know where I wanted to go. So we were trying to figure out navigate us being friends, but also like there was romantic elements started to being added in. You know, so you know I didn't know what I wanted. I'm trying to think. I had the mindset that if I started dating somebody, like it had to be to marry them. So it's like for me, I was like, if I end up calling Jess my girlfriend, I'd have to like marry her, which is like, I think sometimes Christians in close knit church circles can get that mindset that like,
Yeah.
you know, like the pressure of just dating. So like I had that pressure. I was confused like through sexual things as well, and kind of just ended up crumbling from there.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say something.
And that was it, really.
Yeah,
Nah, because I have a follow up question.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
not just
I'm
gonna
like,
brush
let
that
me-
off.
that was
You're not-
that was a
you're not-
situation.
You're not just going that was it really. So how did you feel during that time, and what did you learn from that lesson?
See, I was in a different place. Mom, you're not watching, are you? So I was I was very used to being in situationships and like such and such of things, not really being that big of a deal. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, let's just move forward. Like, it doesn't have to be this big episode, but it was a much bigger episode for Jonathan. And he was like, oh, we have to stop talking. I'm like, why? Like, relax. It's not that big a deal. But it was really annoying to me because I'm like, like I said, like he wanted me for all these years, like I push him away. And as soon as I decide like, hey, let's give this a try, all of a sudden, like he's pumping up some serious breaks. I'm like, were you playing with me all this time? Like I don't understand. Like we know everything about each other already. Like it's not like, let's just try it out. Cause I wasn't afraid of like, oh, if I date Jonathan, I have to marry him because I'm like, I've had 15 boyfriends. I'm like, I don't care. Like we can try it out. If it doesn't work, then just move on to somebody else. I got options, but like he's very serious about it. So I was
Yeah,
like, okay, whatever.
and I wanted it to be right. Like I wanted us to be on a season of not having any slip ups, you know, and not like of a time of peace. But because we started on the wrong foot, everything else crumbled from there.
Yeah, it was hard. And that happened around, I don't remember. It took about 3 years for us to get it together.
Yeah. So it's like to the point where I was like, it's just me and you don't work. Yeah. I just had the mindset that me and you together, for some reason, have you guys ever seen the movie Hancock?
Yeah.
You know, like how him and like her, like they just couldn't be in the same place, or like bad stuff started
they
happening.
Keep, like being drawn to each other.
Yeah, they kept being drawn to each other, but like you can't be together because. So I just ended up breaking it off, and ended up talking to somebody. Else, but then through that, I realized that I thought the problem was me and her, but the same stuff was popping up with me and the other person. I'm like, the problem is me. Like all the stuff that I'm carrying, all the baggage that I have, that's what the problem is. And I think through going through therapy then, like it really helped me realize some patterns that I had in myself and made myself able to confront those. That like my breaking point was I ended up in my parents' room and like I was just really sad and like they're like, what's wrong? And I started crying. And I was like, I just hate myself. Like I do not like myself. And I just was carrying so much shame, so much guilt, so much pain. And then after going through therapy, that kind of started the healing process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard you mention that earlier, and I'm glad you brought that up again because that was something that's been on my mind ever since I heard you say it the first time. But therapy. So I went through therapy as well, and there was a lot of healing from that for me. So I'm curious, what is your advice for people who are like considering therapy, and like what did you see it do for you that you feel like it could do for other, especially men? I feel like men are so prideful, where they're so like hesitant to step into that season because they don't want to look like they're being weak.
Yeah.
So I don't know, what kind of encouragement do you have for people who may be kind of on the fence of going to therapy, but have some resistance?
Yeah, I think almost everybody should do therapy at some point in their life. Just because as people living in a fallen world, we all go through capital T like big traumas. But even if you don't have a big trauma, there are micro traumas and stuff that builds up to kind of disrupt the idealized version of who you are or who God wants you to be. That if you ever find yourself in a pattern that like, I just can't get out of this exact same pattern, this loop of whatever it is, like whether it's, for me, part of it was porn addiction. I couldn't get out of that. I couldn't escape that. I couldn't escape never feeling like I know what I want to do. I always feeling double-minded about literally everything. I just couldn't get out of it. And through therapy, I saw, where some of that comes from. Part of it was just shame that I had for, like Matt talked about, me leading youth group. Started leading youth group when I was 16 years old. Like not just like a youth leader, like I was the youth leader. But while I was doing that, I was, talking to girls, like addicted to porn. I was doing all this stuff, so I had all this shame and feeling like, as the old ladies at church hype you up. It's like, oh, you're so good. I want my children to be just like you. All that stuff, but feeling like I was a fraud. So just always not feeling like I was what people thought I was. And that came to a head, when the first time I'm going full deep. The first time I ended up having sex in my entire life, the girl, she hit me up a few weeks later, and it was my grandfather's funeral. She hit me up the day before, and she was like, I haven't got my period. Right? And I'm freaking out. I'm going, like, my brain is like exploding, and I'm like crying, and it's my grandfather's funeral, so everyone thinks I'm crying because of that, and I am partially, but it's also partially because I'm like, my life is over. And I mean, it wouldn't have been over, but that's how it felt.
You're 16. I mean, not 16. How
No, I was 18.
old are you? Yeah, you're 18.
I was right about
You
to
think
go away
you're
to
about to be a
college.
dad, you're
Thinking I'm like, oh, do I not go away to college? Like, it was like all these thoughts going through my head. And at the funeral, people were like, your grandfather left such a great legacy. He's such a man of faith, and like, your family. I look up to you. My kids look up to you, and just feeling all of that.
A lot of pressure. Yeah.
Pressure, shame, feeling like I have to make the right decisions at all times. So that was part of it. The girl ended up not being pregnant. But feeling that part of it, and then realizing that because I never felt that people knew me, like really knew me and loved me, and they loved the idealized version of me, sex and sexual things became like it's kind of like when someone sees you in a sexual way, it makes you feel that they're seeing you naked but they're loving the real you. So it was like a counterfeit acceptance and a counterfeit approval. So if a girl was giving me, any praise or any kind of adulation in a sexual thing, it'd make me feel good, make me feel actually approved of, rather than my approval coming from God. So I would have never, unless I had God led me to therapy, I would have never seen that that's the pattern that was repeating. That's the cycle that kept bringing me into similar places. And I think that sometimes you need that another person to be that doesn't really know you, so that they can help analyze your situation and be like, have you thought about this? And I think until I broke that cycle, I wouldn't have been able to walk into where I need to be to be a leader for Jess.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we got deep. We got deep
What
right
a
there.
testimony right there. Yeah, that's a big stronghold to have, especially going right into marriage after that. So does any of that still trickle into your marriage now?
Yes.
The way we looked at each other.
No. So yes, all that stuff. It's still the battle. It has a lot more wins right now than it has losses. But it's a battle. It's a battle.
Wins for yourself, not
Wins.
the temptation.
No. I'm winning.
You're winning. Yeah.
Well, through Jesus,
Yes.
I'm winning a lot more than I'm losing. But I think God's been carrying me. So even I had that bout of therapy before we started dating officially. And then shortly after that, that's when we got into an actual dating relationship. And the entire time that we were dating, we realized that I was not 100% fully where God needed me to be. And we talked about we're probably gonna end up breaking up some point in this.
We constantly said that.
We probably
should break up.
Yeah, we probably should
sometime.
But we're just holding on.
Yeah.
For a year and a half, 2 years almost.
No, it was like a year and change.
A year and change? Oh, okay.
So we actually broke up. We broke up one time when we were 8 months in. I always took track. 8 months in for a weekend. And we got back together still knowing that we shouldn't be back together yet. But I'm like, we're having fun.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Through the therapy. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Through the therapy, God started working on me. But the work hadn't been brought to completion.
Yeah.
But I rushed into the relationship with Jess thinking that if I didn't grab her then she would be gone.
Yeah.
But it ended up causing us a lot more pain in the long run that I didn't just follow through with what God had started in me.
Yeah.
Which is why we ended up breaking up again when she was like, do you see marriage in our future? And I was like, I don't know.
This is at a year and 3 months of us dating, but 7 years of us being best friends. I'm like, you still don't know us? I'm out.
I did not know. But then I went through a process that kind of really solidified and firmed up everything that God was doing in me.
Yeah. I wanted to say something, and this is there's no need for me to say this, but I'm going to anyways because nobody asked me. But as far as you talking about how you had your battles and you still struggled through our marriage, sometimes I actually, why am I doing this? Okay, I actually started having battles with myself after we got married. There was things that I've never ever explored myself ever before we got married. I was it wasn't my thing. I know people are always oh, you need to do it to get to know who you are and get to know what you like, but it was just never a thing for me. And I never struggled with it until we got married. That's when I started struggling with it. And then before I got married, I used to not necessarily like look down on Jonathan for like his struggles with porn, but I used to be like, just stop. Like, stop. I don't get why you are doing that.
Yeah.
And then I started having like, the same thing started happening to me in a different, it looked different, but it was basically the same thing started happening to me because whatever. So I had to really look at myself and be like, this is the thing that you were looking at your husband crazy for before, and now you're in the same exact position. And I was just praying. I'm like, please, I hope he gives me grace, because I eventually did end up telling him, I'm like, but I have to tell you something. Like, I started exploring XYZ, and I think it was really hard for you to hear. I actually was surprised. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, yeah, I've been forgiving you all this time, and I feel like it was a much more of a shock for you that those things were happening, and it was a little rocky for us for a second. Like, I just felt like you maybe felt like you weren't good enough or something. Like, I don't know, what were you feeling exactly? It was a little weird because there was one time, like, I think it was the day after I told him. I remember he woke up out of bed at like 3 a.m. He like woke up frantically and like ran downstairs to get some water. So I'm in bed. I'm like, hello? And then he came upstairs and he told me what his dream was about, that I was like having sex with some other guy or something. And I'm like, what do you, is this what I have to deal with now that I told you the truth? Like, he was like, he's just freaking out. I'm like, oh,
I don't even remember that really.
I know, but it happened. But I think it was more so that I was hiding something from you, and that for the most part, whenever you did whatever, you were very honest about it. But like, I hid it from you for like a little while. So just thought I'd share skeletons that no one asked me to share.
That's good though. I love. Thank you so much for the vulnerability. Like, that was amazing, and I love the transparency, because what you see a lot in marriages is like they don't have those type of conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge detriment to your marriage, because now you guys are holding things back from each other, and you get into that habit of doing so. And it's just like, if I don't tell them, they'll never know, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But it's like having those demons in your closet, if you will, that I think that there's just so much freedom in expressing yourself and having those deep conversations and letting your partner know where you're truly at.
Yeah.
Because the only way to find freedom is through your expression, through your testimony. So I think that's an awesome thing that you guys were able to do. And obviously there's been growth from it, you know?
Yeah. I really appreciate her telling me, even though it was hard to hear, you know, and something that I'll always tell Jess is that never shy away from telling me things, even if it's not my favorite thing to hear, because the devil can no longer use that against you to hold you down or to create barrier to conversation through secrecy. And that's the temptation to not want to say things because like, I just want to keep the peace. I just want things to be good. But then, you know, that's how the devil holds and lords things over you.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to commend you on is anytime I make a mistake in any way, you're a really good safe space to soundboard what I'm telling you. Even if you don't like what I'm saying, and you might not be happy with me, but you allow me a place to speak to you when things are going on. And I think that's just so important, being that safe space, that peace for your partner, even if they're telling you something that you don't want to hear. You don't have to be happy about it. You don't have to be like, everything's okay. But it's like, I'm able to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
Yeah. I think something in marriage that you really have to work on or like grow in is giving grace. You have to give grace. And like Dana said in our other episode that we did together, was forgiveness. It's like a constant circle of forgiveness and grace. Also because you're going to need it also. Like, you're going to need that grace returned back to you. I'm like, that's not why you should give grace, because you know you're going to slip up and you're going to want that same treatment. But I mean, like, we're both still growing and learning, and like, we've never been married before. We don't really know what we're doing. We're still figuring things out and figuring out each other and things like that. So I'm like, we're both still learning. We're 2 years in and we're toddlers. We're like just learning how to walk, you know? So I know we're both going to make mistakes, and who am I to be like, well, I'm the marriage professional and you need to like I don't know what I'm doing either. So it's a lot of grace. And like you said, I don't have to be like, nothing bothers me. I don't care that you XYZ. Like, who cares? Like, sometimes things still hurt, and I'm gonna let you know. But I always want to be a safe space for my husband to feel like he can tell me whatever. Because the moment that he feels like I can't talk to her because I know she's going to get mad, it's like, that's when the he's going to use that.
Yeah.
And he's going to use like, oh, you can't tell her. She's going to be mad at you. She'll never find out. Don't say anything. I always want him to feel comfortable to tell me what's going on. So I have to remind myself, I'm like, don't blow up. Because he needs to be able to tell you stuff. But also at the same time, I don't want anyone to feel like they can never be mad or tell their partner how they feel. Just say it in a nice, calm way.
Yeah, whatever your response is, it shouldn't be to hurt them.
Yeah.
You know, the response is to relay how you're feeling, but never to hurt them.
Yeah.
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 That's big.
A verse that I always think about in these situations, because two words that keep circulating in my mind is pride and judgment, right? So Proverbs 16 verse 18 said, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And I think what holds people back from expressing their emotions and being vulnerable with where they are in life is their pride.
Yeah.
And if you hold on to that pride, then it says that destruction is gonna follow.
Yeah.
So to put that pride down and to express yourself in that manner is just like such an amazing thing, because once again that's where freedom comes. And then for both of you guys, for whenever someone is going through something and they're able to put their pride down and express that to your spouse, you guys, a big thing that you guys don't do, from what it sounds like, is you guys don't judge each other. There's no judgment, because once you start feeling that judgment, that's when you're going to start holding things back more.
Yeah.
So you guys give each other opportunity, you give each other space. And I think that the space that you guys give each other in those moments is what is helping your marriage grow and blossom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you think that you're all the way up here in your marriage and you don't do anything wrong, God will humble you so fast.
Quickly.
He'll humble you so fast.
And can I commend you guys, because you keep saying you're toddlers, you're just learning to walk, but year 2 and you guys are already discovering this. That's huge. Because it took us a long time
Yes,
time
it
to
did,
get there.
for sure.
Because, we walk through this thing called marriage, and it should be a reflection of God's love for his church. And so when I think about how we hold an expectation for each other, and we are always looking at each other's sins, and sometimes our spouse's sins are going to sing louder than our own.
Yeah.
And that's just your own perception, but like your sins are still sins, and
Yeah.
God's still trying to point at those. So the devil is going to hold on to whatever stronghold you have and everything that you are separating. So instead of becoming one, he's going to use whatever you guys are doing separately and
Yeah.
use it to attack you. So it's good that you guys came together. We're super transparent and open and not having any secrets, so that you guys can be more unified and work together as a team, because the devil will use that for sure.
Absolutely.
I love that. You talked about, you just said it, unified and working together as a team. So I'm going to flip the page a little bit here, because I know you mentioned that, you're a physical therapist, and you now started to step into the season of podcasting and supporting Jessica in that space, if you will. So how is it now that you guys like officially work together? What's that dynamic like? What are some struggles, or maybe some things that are going great that you guys love about working with each other? So let's talk about that side of things for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going pretty well. Jonathan is so good at like trying to take off of the load of whatever I have going on, because doing the podcast is like an extra work of social media. It's like, say I'm done with my social media stuff and turned in everything at the end of the day, and then it's like, oh, here's more. So like, hey, let's do more podcasting. Like I say it as like Jonathan's a full-time physical therapist. Like say when he was clocking out of work, I'm like, all right, now let's do our side hustle of physical therapy. It's just like, oh, here's more of what I just finished. So that's sometimes how it feels. I'm like, okay, let's turn it back on. We have the podcast, and the podcast is like Jonathan's baby. He loves the podcast. And I think it's great for him because he gets to really step into his calling on the podcast, because like I said, he oiled up, he be preaching, and it's really good. But I love that he takes off most of the load. He does like all the camera stuff and like make sure the mics are checked. I'm like, oh, thank God. So I really just go up there and I'm here to look pretty and give a few jokes while Jonathan spits the word, and it's great. But yeah, working together hasn't really been much of an issue so far.
Yeah, I think my job right now, I mean, I am a PT. I work like 32 hours a week or something like that. I used to work the full 40, like a little 40 plus, but taking some time off to do the podcast, like help Jess manage the finances, like some stuff around the house as well. I think it's been really good for our marriage, because when I was working more, I could see the strain it would put on her even before the podcast was a thing, because she works from home, and just as a wife feeling like she wants to have all of her work done, dinner cooked, the house cleaned, all that stuff. It was just a lot. It was a lot for her. But after I was done with work, I wouldn't want to do any work. I would feel exhausted, but she'd be exhausted too. So it's a different kind of tired. But I think now we have such a better balance, because like on my Tuesdays and Thursdays, my early days, so I'll go to work, but then I'll be able to come home and do groceries.
Yeah.
Set up the cameras and stuff for the podcast.
Cook.
Yeah, and then like so we, but like we have a much better balance, which frees Jess up to be more creative. She's the creative, and like her personality is what allows us to live our life. So if I could take any stress off of her plate, that's what I feel called to do right now. So right now it's working really well.
Yeah, it's working well.
The finances of it are still it's like a learning curve, like with
When he's talking about the finances, like we have a business account now, like an LLC, and like I don't know nothing about that
Like,
stuff. So Jonathan he manages all of it, and sometimes he gets frustrated with me because I'm like putting money in the wrong spot, and now it gives him extra work to like move it over and talk to our accountant, and I'm just like, oh my bad. So like he manages all of that stuff. So I don't. He's good at that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like the podcast side of it. But I do have trouble with trying to get all the social media stuff. If that makes sense. Like remembering to post stories to the podcast channel, remembering to do all the engagement stuff. Like I just kind of want to talk on the podcast and be done.
It's more than that.
A lot of work.
You're coming along though.
I remember when you first started, Jess, and you were just like, you know what, I'm going to jump right in. And you did it full time, and everyone looked at you so crazy. But you killed it, and you're out here. So do you guys have like goals and aspirations for your future and like what that might look like with this industry or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for eventually for Jonathan to be able to do this full time with me, because I just feel like we could just do so much more. Like I have like all these dreams and visions for Jonathan. I'm like, you should start like a Monday morning motivation where you just preach on your Instagram. Like I have all these plans for him, and I'm like, but obviously if he doesn't want to do it, like that's fine. But I just see that people always ask like, oh, are you going to step into ministry or be a preacher or like at church? And I think that he could reach such a wider audience on a platform that I've been blessed to have my own. I know it'd be easy to just get him along in that. And like, he may not be a preacher at church or like on a stage, but I feel like he can do it on his social media. And like, I see that for him. I'll let him speak on what his visions are in a second. But something that I'm not sure about is when we do have kids, how much I'm going to want to use them as like in, like vlogging and stuff like that. Like I have no idea. Like sometimes I'm like nothing at all. No. And sometimes I'm like, well, dang, they might be kind of cute. They could be worth a few dollars. And then, like it's a joke, but I'm serious. But like, I don't know like what the future holds as far as like when we have an actual family, and only because I know how I feel when people say things about like me or Jonathan or things like that. Like I can't imagine how I'd feel if people were talking about my kids, and I'm like, maybe I should just keep them away. Like I had too much skin in the game to see what people can say and how mean people can be. Like you guys started off straight off with the kids. So it was like, you didn't know. So like, I wish I didn't have that knowledge or that, past hurts. So I could just be like, oh, it's fun and games. But like, I don't know. I'm not sure about that part. But as far as me and you, like, I just want to like go fully in. I feel like we have so much to offer. And even though your job is a huge, like, I love that you're still working. I feel like it'd be in a way, dog. Like, like we need more time together.
Yeah, I think I'm similar to Dana in terms of like me wanting the podcast only when Jess, whatever, to be making a certain amount of money before like I'd hop almost fully into it. I think
that's smart.
Yeah, I think I'd still want to be a PT, at least like part time, like just come in like 2 mornings. I don't know. I feel like I worked hard for that degree, and I do like the job. But yeah, I do eventually see us doing more like stepping further into this calling, you know, in whatever way that God wants us to be in it. But I do see that as the future. It's just about timing, really, and it making sense.
So I know you guys just came back from a little trip, and I know you guys mentioned that there were some conversations that you guys had in regards to like being excited about the future. And I know, you know, if you guys feel comfortable with talking about some of those things. I know you guys kind of just spoke about it a little bit. Was there anything in detail that you guys feel like this is the next thing that we want to do?
I love how we always look at each other like, who wants to talk first?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty much what I just said. But like, also, I want us to do just like more videos together. I definitely want Jonathan. Not that he wants these things too, y'all. I promise. To like do more solo videos on Instagram of like doing a quick devotional or things like that. I know people said they wanted to see us doing things together, like devotionals together, and I would do that. But like, I don't want people to try to like force me into being like, we want you to explain about like that is not my strong suit. Like it, but it is Jonathan, so I can see him doing that on his own. I definitely want to do like. I want to like press into like the between the walls more, and I can only press into it part-time because I only have Jonathan part-time. So we're just like excited for all like the fun stuff that we can do when we get more time together. But like I said, I guess I got to do some more week videos or something because he said not until the money is up here, and right now the money is right here. So like we got to take our time with it. So,
yeah, 100% what she said in terms of the business side. In terms of the family side, we're like Jess said, we're looking to have kids soon. Hopefully, whenever God says so.
You know what? I took a pregnancy test today, and then because I was whatever.
I told her stop doing that.
No,
Well, Dana said she needs to take one, so I don't know.
you. Sorry. Ew, that was so ugly.
Bro, you can
That would be really cool to be pregnant with somebody at the same time. Both my sisters had all their kids like 100 years ago. I'm like, what about me?
Maybe we can take one tonight. We'll run to the store and we'll
Well,
grab
I took one already,
Like,
but when I took it, I looked at the packaging and I realized that it expired 6 months ago.
That's crazy. Did you just buy that, or is this one that's
No,
been
she
hanging
had a
out?
box
It's
of like
a box
50.
of 50.
Oh my
man.
goodness,
And
the
I-
50 pack.
I'm like,
You got
why
that
is
from
that 50
Sam's
pack?
house?
That's crazy.
And
The BJ's purchase.
I'm like, I need to know. I
Wow.
test so often. There's literally only one left now.
Oh my
and I'm like,
gosh.
oh, these expired 6 months ago. But I'm like, obviously they've been accurate because they keep saying negative. And I'm like, well, maybe they were wrong. I think they've been pretty accurate. But yeah, we're not pregnant.
Just
According to the 6 month expired.
Yeah, the expiry date.
Expiry date.
Wait, but how could Dana be pregnant?
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
We did it.
Nah.
We did it.
he's in his head because I have a couple of people in my life who have told me that they've gotten pregnant when their husband got a vasectomy. And so I've been like mad tired lately, and he's like pregnant.
Absolutely, 100%. I would
Someone,
love that.
I think Simi was touching her belly the other day,
Ooh, the babies do.
and then
Oh,
a,
no,
and then
it
a child
was
that we
our-
don't even. I mean, that doesn't really know us started drawing a picture of a pregnant girl, and
While we're at dinner.
she put my name over her, and her mom was looking at her because she's prophesied a couple things before, which
Oh
is really
my
crazy.
gosh.
And her mom was like, "Who's that?"
Maybe she meant to put Matt's sister.
And she's like, "Who's that?"
Yeah.
And she just looked at her and she just kept pointing at the name Matt, and I was like,
Oh no.
"This girl's what?
First of all,
3 years old? 4 years
she's
old?"
4, and she wrote Matt.
Yeah, no,
And
that's pretty.
I was
great. She
like-
barely knows how to write her
That's
own name.
pretty intense.
So
We're just
I
gonna
was
start
like,
praying for
we're
you
at,
now.
we're
That's
at
crazy.
dinner, and I'm just like, what's happening? What's
That's
Wait,
crazy.
she's
Mountains
4
are
years
still
old. That'll be your
being-
4th child. This is going together.
Guys, let's slow down here. Let's slow down here.
happening?
How mad would you be like if you got the vasectomy and everything, and it's like,
He
I
wants
would be
another
hyped.
one.
Why would I don't think I'd be mad. If I could, I would probably have one more. I think I
I
would.
would
If
be
you have
down
ano-
for one more, but the thing is like our bodies don't want us to have one
Yeah,
more.
that's fine. If it's not God's plan, it's not God's plan. But if it is
But if
God's
it
plan,
is-
it's gonna happen. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
that's
You
true.
can't stop
if you
it.
have one more, you're definitely leaving Port St. Lucie. You guys are gone, bro.
Wait, why would you say that?
Because it's true.
But why?
Yeah, what does that mean exactly?
Because
Why?
this house can't take one more.
Why
you
not?
think they're
never
gonna
know.
move? If it's a boy,
If
they
it-
can.
yeah,
share.
you can
Oh,
share
if
it.
it's a boy, then
The
you're
sharing
good.
will get you a long way.
Well, I did get a phone call the other day, which we can talk about off air. But
Oh boy.
You're,
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna cry. This is
so I have,
goodbye
I did
episode.
have a lot. Can I ask one more question? You have time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys talk about how between the walls, you guys would like to step into more of like the the devotional space, or like, you know, Jonathan being able to step into that calling, because he's definitely blessed in that area. And I feel like God definitely has his hand on your life when it comes to delivering the word. So I was curious as to how you guys are together and even separately when it comes to your devotion time and your time with God and
Walking with Jesus.
Yeah. How do you balance it all?
Yeah, we stink together, bro. Like we could definitely do devotions together much more often than we do. Not that we never do them, but we could definitely do it more often. But I think separately, we're pretty decent.
Pretty solid. I think.
But we need to work on that.
I think someone gave an analogy, and I can't remember where I got it from, but there's like times where you're rowing, there's some time, and there are times when you're sailing, right? In terms of your Christian walk, and times where you're sailing, it's like where like imagine a boat where like the sail is up and the wind is blowing and everything is easy. It's like it's easy to be in the word. It's easy to preach the word. It's just you're just in a flow, like you're on fire for God. That feeling like you're sailing. But then there's other times when, you know, you're in the middle, the current's kind of taking you, you're kind of going where you need to go, but it's like in between time. And then sometimes you feel like you're rowing. Like the current's going against you and you have to put your oar in the water and row, and like reading the Bible doesn't feel fun. You don't feel like God's really saying anything. You're kind of in a time where it kind of just sucks. Like you're just doing it because you know you need to do it and not because you feel inspired. And I feel like right now I'm in a rowing season, but that's okay because even in this season, I still feel God bringing me back, even though I'm not pursuing Him, if that makes sense. So it's like, you know, I'll wake up and I'll read a little portion of scripture and I'll pray a little bit, but it's not like those times where like I want to be in it at all points of the day, because there are those times, there are those seasons, and those seasons are beautiful, like to be on that mountaintop. But like right now, it feels like I'm in a row, but it's okay because when I'm rowing in those down seasons, it's preparing me for the next mountaintop or the next ascent. So that's where I feel like I am right now. So I feel like I've gotten accustomed to the different seasons. So I'm not discouraged now. I'm just trying to prepare myself for the next mountaintop.
That's really good, because there was a message that I heard lately, or recently, that was talking about the moment where we need God the most isn't when we're in the valley, but it's when we're on the mountaintop. Because that's when you have the job, when you have the family, when you have the money, when you got the promotion, when you have all those things and you no longer have a need, will you still see a need for God? And I feel like that spoke to me, because I feel like we're pretty comfortable right now where, you know, our kids are doing great. You know, our marriage is good. Like the finances are, you know, they're making sense. And I felt that complacency for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I never, even when I do feel like I'm quote unquote on the mountaintop, I want to always be rowing. I want to always be rowing. And I've challenged myself to do that. So it's been a journey. And there's been a lot of confirmations that I feel like have taken place over the last couple of weeks, that I'm just trying to step into it. I'm just trying to say yes to God and truly sacrifice everything, because right now, that since we have everything, we try to hold on to it so tightly. Yeah. But it's like God may be asking you to loosen up that grip a little bit. And I feel like this may be a season of that we're both kind of going through, is like loosening up that grip. And just letting God use whatever's in our hand. Yeah. And it's like, you know, that meme with God, the teddy bear.
Yeah, and he has a bigger one.
He's like, yeah, I got a bigger one for you. So it's like, are we willing to let go of that little teddy bear so He can give us the big teddy bear?
Yeah.
So that's good. I guess that's my encouragement. It's just like always try to find a way to keep rowing, because it's not easy, man. Because when you're setting sail, you're cruising.
Yeah.
You're cruising.
One thing I always pray is that for God to always remind me that I need Him even when I don't want Him. You know, that like sometimes, like you said, when things are going well, you don't realize how much you need God. When you're in the valley, when things are going poorly, it's like, God, I want you. I know I need you, but I also I want you really bad right now. But it's like we need God way more than we want Him. So it's always, my prayer is always to never let me get to a place where I don't realize how much I need you. So that's like a constant prayer for me. So it goes right in line with what you were saying, you know, and the encouragement that keep pressing in even when you don't feel that want, you know.
Yeah, it's like when we worship, you know, and it burned me when I went to church the other day, and Dana noticed it too. But it's like when we worship, a lot of people, they worship because they want to feel something. But like, I just don't feel it. Like I'm like, if I didn't feel anything, then I feel like I didn't worship properly. But it actually should be the other way around. You should have a shift in your mindset where you're not worshiping to feel something, but you're worshiping to give. You're worshiping to give. So every time I come into worship, even though I don't feel like raising my hands and I don't feel like singing out, I'm like, God, you're worthy. Like, you're holy.
Yeah.
Like, you deserve this worship. Like, with everything that we've been through, like, I should be on my hands and I should be on my face worshiping you, because you have the sacrifice that you've done for me doesn't even compare. It doesn't. There's nothing that can compare to that. So I just need to give it all over to you and truly let you feel that worship, because, man, like, coming from where I'm coming from, you know, like coming from where we've come from, you know, it's just like God deserves all the glory. So encourage me, man. Just give God the glory no matter what season of life you're in, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's a good close, because that was just deep, and I think people need to sit and meditate on that, because that's not something you hear every day. You don't hear that kind of word. And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming to our home, featuring on At Home with the Harveys.
Look, they comfortable. My sister got her toes
out and everything. Hey, I need y'all to get off my bed. I'm keeping right there tonight. Keep playing with me.
We love you guys, man. This is awesome, and this definitely will not be the last time we do this.
For sure.
You guys already know you're welcome to my house at all. I mean, even if you're not welcome, you guys know the code. You guys
I'm up in
anyways.
here.
Yeah, you're in this thing. Is there any words of advice that you guys, or words of wisdom, or a message that you want to send the people off with? What you got? Anything?
I actually do want to say something
Go
really
ahead.
quick.
Jesse.
Go ahead.
It's not really about us. It's about Matt and Dana, because I'm like listening to them talk. And even like in our podcast episode that we did, I'm like holding back tears because just seeing where they've come from, it's in particular, especially my brother, because I mean, I've known him my whole life. And like, nobody would think that my brother would be where he is today. Like, just hearing him speak, like when we pulled up to do the podcast, he like brought his Bible over here. I'm like, who are you? Like, even though I've seen this version of him for some years, I still can't believe sometimes. I'm like, you're married and you're a dad and like you love Jesus. Like, I'm like, what's happening? Who are you? Like, this is the guy who was getting in fights and just doing all this crazy stuff. Like,
I was fighting for you.
Yeah, that's true. But that's true. He did anyway. But like, y'all will hear his testimony and all that, but like, it's so great to see how far he's come. And with Dana, like the woman of God that she is and the mother that she is, like I saw her Bible and I'm like, you have so many notes. And I'm like, you're really reading this. Like, I'm like, my Bible is like, does not have enough notes. I'm like, she's really reading her word, and like seeing the presence they have on Instagram. Like you can tell like their page is not about them. Like they're always and constantly bringing glory to God. And I know what you guys are doing is so special. And I'm like so proud. Like I'm a proud little sister, like truly, just to see where you guys have come from. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm extremely inspired by you guys as parents, the way you love each other, the way you like they lead like 10,000 groups at church. I'm just like, oh, you guys, who are you? It's very inspiring to see. So shout out to you guys, and shout out to our good God who has like put you guys in the place and given you this platform and like molded you into who you both are, and for who you guys are for each other, and who you guys are for your kids, and who you guys are to your family and friends. It's very beautiful to see.
Yeah. To echo what you said and add on it a little bit. I feel the exact same way, that I really look up to you guys as something that I want for us in our marriage. And you know, like when Jess was talking, I was thinking of the song by Elevation, where it says like, I'm living proof of what the mercy of God can do. And I look at your relationship and it's like, you guys are living proof of what the mercy of God can do. And it says like, if you knew me then, like what Jess was saying, you would believe me now. You turn my whole life upside down.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just what the mercy of God can do. And like God's grace and his mercy and his love is shown so much through you guys. Thank you for allowing us in your space and to be, you know, to I almost said do life together. I hate that.
I mean, that's what we
Life.
doing though.
That Christian, Christianese, and live life together.
You're trying to change it so hard.
Yeah, I
just
know.
say it.
No, it's so I hate it. Christianese, but yeah, no, thank
Daddy
you guys.
God.
Daddy
Dear
God.
Daddy God. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. To God be
Be
the
the
glory,
glory,
great things He has done.
Trying to put my chapel cap on.
Somebody get the hymnal, bro. All right, we out of here. We love y'all. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that. Where you at? Tell them people where y'all at.
So you guys can find us at Between the Walls Podcast on Instagram and on YouTube. And you can find me at only1jess _ on Instagram and only1jess on YouTube as well.
Let's go. We love you guys. God
Love
bless.
you.
Bye. Oh, cute.
Lovely.
Goodness.